We got the Sims 4 for Rent gameplay trailer and a few tweets with additional information. Hello, my name is Jennifer and welcome to my Sims 4 news video. So, of course, The Sims shared on various social media when the trailer went live to discover a new lot type, get creative with multi-family households, and learn the ins and outs of property manager life in the Sims 4 Rent gameplay trailer. And someone did ask afterwards whether or not you had to play as a landlord, and the Sims reply, absolutely, that you can play as the tenant. Essentially, feel free to enjoy life as a tenant. Just make sure you follow the rules. No one likes fines, because there will be fines or can be fines if you don't follow the rules. And that the bit about being able to be a property owner or tenant was in the original blog post, which there wasn't an additional blog post today. But it's easy to overlook that since it wasn't in the trailer and the focus was as a property owner versus being a tenant in this particular trailer. So it essentially starts with a family that used to be tenants and the landlord has quote unquote retired and is passing on tips about, for them now being the landlord. I honestly wouldn't have thought this was something. I think this is like for gameplay trailer purposes, versus I wouldn't think it's something you retire from because you own the buildings versus, whatnot. And it did start in Simlish and then converted to English, but they do show a little bit about how you can do the units, and essentially you specify by, room, whether it's, belongs to a particular unit, which you can see it was telling you the value of it and how many tiles that particular unit was. And of course, there's some shared or can be shared areas, which would obviously be very good for an entrance as well as other things. And I'm guessing that sign is what brings up this tenant agreement. So you've got the rent per day, but there is a max rent per day, and then the lease length, which I have tweets later that go over that a bit more detail. And you can set it to 0 like they showed there. And then they just show some screenshots. And so for filling the vacancy, if the rating is low, you'll have less people that are going to be interested. And the higher the rating, the more Sims you can choose from, and you can see like the details of the size and whatnot of the household. Obviously you don't see their traits. He was saying he was joking about tenants doing the fire thing, but I would think that could be a thing. But anyways, we shall see. And they talk a little bit about, as a landlord trying to build a community, though that came later. Right now they're talking about some of the problems like rent past due, and you can repossess things if they don't pay their bills as the landlord. And you can either like evict them, like it looks like they're going to do, but then you can also give them a second chance, which is what they do in this case. And the tenant, cleans things up and pays their rent, and things go along. Well, I just noticed there was a little mortar and pestle there, but I'm guessing that's decorative, would be my assumption. And you see the cockroaches, and then there's an exterminator, and I'm wondering if that will also work with the Eco Lifestyle dumpster, because I find you can't get rid of them. I have a mod by Bandicam that lets me get rid of them. And this is where they talk about building the community and like sharing food, and they all have all the different types of fun looking things there. I always love it when they add new foods in packs. One of my favorite things. So anyways, and then it kind of ends and essentially shows that you can get it by January 18th to get that Street Eats pack. And again, that it's available December 7th, which they actually confirmed in the description that is December 7th at 10 a.m. Pacific, which is what I expected, because usually with a Thursday release, that is when it comes out. So everybody will get it at the same moment, but not at the same time, because it'll depend on what time that is in your own time zone. And I do have this world clock meeting planner up on the screen that you can see a few areas around the world where that time is in those time zones. But as usual, I will link to a time zone converter down below so you can see exactly when that is in your own time zone, that 10 a.m. Pacific on December 7th. And of course, the game update would be the Tuesday before, December 5th, also at 10 a.m. Pacific. So let's move along to some of the tweets that I saw afterwards. So Zervu tweeted, "We can lease lots for a limited number of days." And then hotels. because it shows this lease length, which they show it going to 7 days. I don't know if that's just, and they sort of pushed on and it became 7, or if that was just trailer magic, or if it is like really a weekly thing. So SimGuru Nova's response initially wasn't quite accurate because lease length doesn't indicate how often tenants pay rent. She did correct that later. It indicates the time periods where tenants can break their lease without paying additional fees, and property owners can make certain changes to the lease, like those things that you were setting up, I'm guessing, and possibly changing the rent per day and all this stuff. All the things that you set up, you can change it as the lease renews, I'm guessing. And then she did a further follow-up later where someone had said, so lease is 3 weeks, tenant plays every 3 weeks, blah, blah, blah. But she said, no, rent is always paid weekly, which she had found out afterwards. The original tweet was incorrect. It's just that every 3 weeks, if it was a 3-week lease, they enter a grace period, which allows tenant to leave without additional fees. Property owner can change the lease details or evict a household without any repercussions. So obviously that indicates that there's repercussions if you do it off that lease, like outside of that lease period. But that was kind of it. So this is not really related, but it was, can we have different lot types in the same building, like having a shop from Get to Work and a house or library and a cafe within the same lot? And so her response was, not in this pack. Residential rental is its own new lot type. And so then someone replied, could it be in another pack someday? And so SimGuru Nova said, not confirming anything either way, but it is a community request that we're aware of, and it's something folks have wanted for a while for sure. So no guarantees, but they know that they want it. I would honestly love a Get to Work refresh where they added that, but that's an aside just because it came up here and I thought I would touch on that a little bit. So Twisted Mexi said, how they are divvying up the things and assigning the rooms was a smart way to do it. And Hufflepalm replied, I wonder if you can be super chaotic and have units all mixed together so part of your unit isn't connected to the rest, but it's in their unit. And SimGuru Nova said, yes, you can honestly build units that aren't functional, like just a series of 1x1 square rooms with no doors on opposite corners of the lot, all assigned to the same unit if you want. But so they want to give total freedom. So you can be as chaotic as you want when you're building your units and assigning what belongs to what unit. And here someone was saying about whether you could pre-build, and someone replied, well, yes, we were already told if we could, but the very important part is the bottom. So there are no required objects for residential rentals. Really, anything goes. Existing residential lots can be converted into residential rentals very easily by selecting each room and assigning the unit, which was shown in the trailer. And then she was just saying she wasn't telling people that they were allowed to build, just that you could build and convert it, which honestly, her original tweet, that's all I took it to mean, was that, go ahead, build, because it'll be able to be converted. Because I was honestly, until I'd seen that a little bit, can it be converted? So I was happy to see the original tweet and further confirmation. So then they did not actually announce the live stream, which I was kind of hoping they would do with the trailer. But when asked about it, she said soon it will be announced on the main account. So i.e. the Sims account. And obviously I assume it'll be on like the Discord, possibly the Facebook, their Instagram, TikTok. Maybe I don't really do TikTok, but anyways. So hopefully we'll find out soon, though, as I mentioned in my video announcing the trailer, next week is American Thanksgiving. So unless they're doing it at the beginning of the week next week, I would think it's most likely to be the following week, but I don't know. And just if you didn't see that video that I did yesterday, she said she's not sure how long the live stream will be, but there's certainly enough to cover and show off to fill that much time and more, which makes sense because honestly, the gameplay trailer probably only showed a really small portion, I expect, of what's coming in the pack. It just focused on being a landlord and what was involved with that. But, they've not talked about the fact that there's this animal sanctuary, which honestly, I'm not thinking is going to be a really big thing, but the whole, there's like the new aspirations and the new traits and the creative sim and, all that stuff. It just seems like there's a lot that wasn't actually covered in today's gameplay trailer. Or that was sort of my impression. One thing that was briefly mentioned was that as the landlord, you don't pay rent, so that is just by default free. But what wasn't mentioned is I would expect that you would still have bills for the overall property, and I kind of wonder how the rent that you're allowed to charge is going to tie to that whole what the billing would be relative to the value, because I can't imagine that you can not pay bills for the whole overall property and really pay no rent. It just doesn't strike me as what I'd expect. And also, I kind of wonder how the utilities are going to work, especially because they're supposed to be based off of usage. So you could have a whole bunch of tenants who like leave their lights on all the time and do stuff. And is that something that the tenants are going to have to be responsible for? Which would then come into, if you were the tenant, you would be responsible for. But that probably is, I would expect, beyond the capabilities for them to track. But we shall hopefully find that out too in that live stream. And then the other thing that I noticed here is that it does look like there's going to be a loading screen between the units, because it says there it's grayed out, but it says travel to unit. So I know a lot of people were hoping that that wasn't going to be the case, but I was inclined to think that at least as a tenant there was going to be a travel to the unit, because if you can have like multiple tenants or multiple units and then up to 8 tenants per unit, like there's no way they could all be open to everybody else because of that, limit of 20 or 25, whichever it is that you have, unless you have mods, because the game just can't handle that many Sims. I mean, if you have MCC population, you can increase that neighborhood limit in addition to being able to increase household limits. But if your computer can't handle it, then it just doesn't work very well. But I had been hoping that as a landlord that you could probably go into the units without a loading screen, because if you got to go in to fix something, it would have been nice if you could just access everything, and then the tenants wouldn't necessarily be there. Just, a handful of them would be there. But anyways, it looks like loading screens seem to be confirmed. Anyways, I'd love to know what you think about the trailer, about these tweets, and also, are you excited for the live stream, whenever that will be? I'd love to know in a comment down below. But that's going to be it for this video. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!